The ship shuddered violently as warning lights flashed across the bridge. Commander Alan Wright gripped his chair tightly, watching as his crew scrambled to regain control of the situation. "Status report," he called out over the blaring alarms. "The warp drive is overloading, sir," Dr. Olivia Martinez shouted from her station. Her dark hair had come loose from its usual neat bun, and her eyes were wide with a mix of fear and excitement. "The energy readings are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this." The UES Dauntless was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, testing a revolutionary warp drive that Dr. Martinez had spent the last decade developing. Today was supposed to be a routine test jump near the Arcturus system, safely within known space. Lieutenant Jack Pearson, the tactical officer, was rapidly trying to divert power from weapon systems to strengthen the failing shields. "Commander, at this rate, the hull integrity will fail in less than 2 minutes. Can we abort the jump?" Wright asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. Samantha Collins, their young navigation officer, shook her head. Her fingers flew across the controls, but nothing responded. "Negative, sir. We're already caught in some kind of spatial rift. The drive isn't just malfunctioning, it's creating something new." Through the main view screen, the crew could see space itself tearing open before them. What should have been the familiar stars of the Arcturus system was now a swirling vortex of blue-white energy, growing larger by the second. "All hands, brace for impact," Wright commanded through the ship-wide system. He'd barely finished speaking when the Dauntless was violently pulled forward. The ship entered the rift with a sickening lurch. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, every person aboard felt as if they were being pulled apart and reassembled. The lights failed, leaving only the eerie glow from the rift illuminating terrified faces. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The Dauntless burst through the other side of the rift, systems rebooting one by one as emergency power kicked in. "Damage report," Wright ordered, helping a fallen crew member back to their station. "Minor injuries reported on all decks," Jack replied, checking the internal sensors. "Engineering reports drive failure, but the reactor is stable. Hull breach on Deck 4, but the emergency force fields are holding." Dr. Martinez was staring at her readings in disbelief. "Commander, according to these readings, we traveled over 12,000 light-years in less than 30 seconds. A hushed silence fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. Humanity had barely explored beyond 100 light-years from Earth. If Martinez was correct, they were farther from home than any human had ever ventured, by a factor of 120. "And you get us back?" Wright asked quietly. Martinez hesitated, then shook her head. "The drive is fried. Whatever happened wasn't a normal warp jump, it was more like we tore through some kind of dimensional barrier that shouldn't have been there." "Sir," Samantha called from navigation, her voice unsteady. "You need to see this." The main view screen flickered to life, showing their new surroundings. The star patterns were completely unfamiliar, but that wasn't what had caught Samantha's attention. In the distance, a massive structure hung in space, easily 100 times larger than the largest space station humanity had ever built. It gleamed with lights of various colors, and ships of all sizes moved around it like insects around a hive. "Are we seeing this correctly?" Wright asked, stepping closer to the screen. "Collins, what's the scale on this image?" "Confirmed, sir. That structure is approximately 1,200 kilometers in diameter." Before anyone could respond, Jack's console began beeping urgently. "Multiple ships approaching, sir. They're moving faster than anything I've ever tracked." "Hail them," Wright ordered. "All frequencies, all languages in our database. Make it clear we're not hostile." "No response to our hails," Jack reported. "But they're scanning us. Intense energy scans penetrating all our shields." Within minutes, the Dauntless was surrounded by sleek metallic vessels that seemed to gleam with an inner light. They were clearly warships, bristling with what could only be weapon ports, but designed with an elegant, almost artistic quality that made Earth's best ships look crude by comparison. "They're locking onto us with some kind of tractor beam," Jack reported grimly. "Our engines don't have enough power to break free." "All hands stand down," Wright commanded. "No aggressive actions, we're visitors here and we'll behave accordingly." A strange tingling sensation washed over the bridge crew, and a holographic image appeared in the center of the room. It showed a humanoid figure with pale blue skin, elongated features, and silver eyes that seemed to look through rather than at the humans. The figure spoke, its mouth movements not matching the words that somehow formed directly in the minds of the crew. "You have illegally breached the sovereign borders of the galactic hegemony. Your vessel and crew are hereby detained pending investigation. Resistance will result in immediate neutralization." "We mean no harm," Wright said, standing tall. "We arrived here by accident. We're from Earth, a planet far from here. We were testing a new drive technology when something went wrong." The alien figure's expression didn't change, but its silver eyes narrowed slightly. "Unknown species detected. Priority alert status engaged. You will be brought to Processing Station Gamma 9 for containment and evaluation." The hologram disappeared, and the ship lurched as the tractor beams began pulling them toward the massive station. Dr. Martinez moved closer to Wright and spoke quietly. "Commander, I've been analyzing their technology from these brief scans. It's centuries beyond ours, maybe millennia." Wright nodded grimly. "I suspected as much. Our first priority is the safety of the crew. We cooperate for now, learn what we can, and look for an opportunity to communicate that we're not a threat." As the Dauntless was pulled inexorably toward the station, the crew watched through the viewports as they passed hundreds of alien vessels, of different designs. It was clear they had stumbled into the heart of an enormous interstellar civilization. 3 hours later, the human crew stood in a vast circular chamber deep within the station. They'd been separated from their ship and scanned by devices they couldn't begin to understand. Now they waited, surrounded by tall, silent guards with the same blue skin as the holographic figure. A panel slid open, and a different alien entered, this one with deep red skin and multiple arms. It studied the humans with obvious curiosity, before speaking directly into their minds. "Preliminary scans are disturbing. Your neural patterns do not match any known species template." The alien circled around Dr. Martinez, studying her intently. "You will undergo complete evaluation. The Overseer has declared you a Class 1 containment threat." "What does that mean?" Wright asked. The red alien fixed its gaze on him. "It means, Commander Alan Wright of Earth, that your unexpected arrival has triggered protocols not activated in over 3,000 cycles." It gestured to the guards. "Take them to isolation chambers. Full memory scan procedures are authorized." As they were led away, Dr. Martinez whispered to Wright, "Whatever happened with the drive, I don't think it was an accident. The spatial rift formed too perfectly, almost like something was waiting for us to find it." Wright had no time to respond before they were separated. Each human crew member led down a different corridor. As Martinez was taken away, she noticed something odd. Her guards seemed almost afraid of her. 2 weeks passed in the cold, sterile rooms of Hegemony Central Processing Station Gamma 9. The crew of the Dauntless had been separated, each placed in individual quarters that resembled luxury prison cells more than accommodations for guests. Commander Wright had been questioned daily by a tall, gray-skinned alien who called himself Overseer Kelvik. "Explain again how your species developed warp technology," Kelvik demanded, his silver eyes unblinking as he stared at Wright. Wright sighed. They had been through this line of questioning at least a dozen times. "As I've told you repeatedly, we developed it ourselves. Dr. Martinez pioneered the quantum folding theory that made our drive possible." "Impossible," Kelvik said flatly. "No species develops along your technological path. All follow the prescribed evolution of techniques. Your development sequence violates pattern law." Wright had no idea what pattern law meant, but he was growing tired of being called a liar. "I can't help what you believe, it's the truth." In another part of the station, engineer Maya Rodriguez was having better luck. She had been assigned to a work detail repairing minor systems, under the watchful eye of a junior technician of the Hegemony. This particular alien, named Ziv, was from a species that had only joined the Hegemony a few centuries ago, practically newcomers by their standards. "Your people really built your own ships without guidance?" Ziv asked quietly while they worked inside an access tunnel, away from monitoring devices. Yes, Maya replied, carefully adjusting the tool she'd been given to fix what seemed to be some kind of data conduit. We've been exploring space for less than 200 years. We had no contact with any alien civilizations before now. Ziv's face, which reminded Maya of a hairless cat with two large eyes, showed an expression she'd come to recognize as surprise. That's why the overseers are troubled. Self-directed technological development is forbidden. All species are supposed to be guided. Guided by whom? Maya asked. Ziv glanced around nervously. The Eternal Emperor, of course. For 50,000 years the Emperor has ruled. The hegemony spans 15,000 worlds and over 200 sentient species. All advancement follows the imperial patterns. Maya processed this information carefully. And we don't fit the pattern. Worse, Ziv whispered, you shouldn't exist at all. Meanwhile, in the medical section of the station, Chief Medical Officer Daniel Grant was making discoveries of his. The aliens had been running exhaustive tests on the humans, taking samples of everything from blood to brain tissue. Grant had managed to gain limited access to their findings by offering to help explain human physiology. Your neural pathways are unlike anything in our database, a medical technician explained, showing Grant a complex three-dimensional scan of his own brain, particularly these structures here and here. The alien pointed to regions that Grant recognized as being associated with creativity and decision-making. What's unusual about them? Grant asked casually. The technician, more forthcoming than most hegemony officials, replied, they resemble pathways seen in only one other place, in the known galaxy. The alien suddenly stopped as if realizing it had said too much. Where? Grant pressed. That information is restricted, the technician said quickly, closing the display. In yet another section of the station, security specialist Erica Jones was doing what she did best, observing and planning. Though confined to limited areas, she had been mapping the station's layout, noting guard rotations and identifying potential escape routes. They underestimate us, she whispered to Lieutenant Pearson during their brief daily exercise period in a common area. They think because we're technologically inferior, we're stupid. Pearson nodded slightly. Did you notice? The security protocols change whenever they talk about taking us to higher evaluation. I think they're planning to move us soon. We need to find the others and coordinate, Jones replied. Especially Martinez. Have you seen her? Pearson shook his head. Not since the first day. I think they're keeping her isolated because of the drive technology. He was right. Dr. Olivia Martinez had been subjected to the most intensive questioning of all. The hegemony scientists were particularly interested in her warp drive designs. Your method of manipulating subspace should not be possible for your developmental stage, a lead scientist insisted during one session. It shows signs of prohibited knowledge. Martinez held her ground. I developed the theories myself based on our understanding of quantum mechanics. I can walk you through the math if you'd like. The scientist made a gesture of dismissal. The mathematics are not in question. It is the very path of discovery that disturbs us. Your approach mirrors forbidden technologies that only the Emperor's inner council should possess. This mention of the Emperor caught Martinez's attention. Who exactly is this Emperor everyone keeps mentioning? The scientist stared at her with an expression that might have been shock or fear. The Eternal Emperor has ruled since the dawn time. He is the source of all advancement, the guardian of the proper path. His wisdom guides all species to their proper place in the hegemony. Sounds more like a dictator than a guide, Martinez muttered. The scientist's skin paled. Such words are heresy. The Emperor's will is absolute. All species find prosperity under proper guidance. Is that why so many of your worker-class aliens look scared all the time? Martinez asked pointedly. The interrogation ended abruptly after that. Later that night, as the station's lighting dimmed to simulate night cycle, Commander Wright was startled awake by a soft chime at his door. When it slid open, he was surprised to see Dr. Martinez being escorted by 2 guards. 5 minutes, the guard told them, by order of Overseer Kelvick. When the guard stepped outside, Martinez quickly sat beside Wright. "Listen carefully," she whispered. "I've figured out part of what's happening here. These tests aren't just about understanding us. They're afraid of us." "Afraid? Why would an empire of 15,000 worlds fear a single ship?" Wright asked. "Because we develop technologies they believe are restricted, and there's something about our brains. They've been scanning mine every day, getting more agitated with each result." Wright nodded. "Grant mentioned something similar. Something about our neural pathways." "It's more than that," Martinez said urgently. "I overheard two scientists talking. They said our resistance to their memory probes is genetically impossible. They've tried to use some kind of technology on us that works on all other species, but it's not working properly on humans." Before Wright could respond, the door slid open and the guards returned. "Time is complete." As Martinez was led away, she managed to whisper one last thing. "They're sending an Imperial envoy to examine us personally. Something big is happening, Alan." The next morning, an announcement echoed throughout the station in the strange direct-to-mind communication the hegemony used. "Attention all personnel. Priority notification. Imperial vessel approaching. Station Gamma 9 is elevated to sovereign. Status. All evaluation subjects are to be prepared for Imperial assessment." From her work area, Maya Rodriguez watched through a viewport as a massive ship approached, at least 5 times larger than any she'd seen so far, gleaming with a golden light that seemed almost alive. Her alien friend Ziv was trembling beside her. "What's happening?" Maya asked. "The inner circle comes," Ziv whispered, genuine fear in his voice. "Someone from the Imperial Court itself approaches. This has not happened in living memory at this outpost. Is that good or bad for us?" Ziv's large eyes fixed on hers with an intensity that made Maya shiver. "It means your people have attracted the attention of those closest to the Emperor himself. No one survives such scrutiny unchanged." Throughout the station, the human crew felt the shift in atmosphere as the hegemony personnel prepared for the arrival of someone clearly important. The corridors became busier, security tightened, and there was a palpable sense of tension in the air. In his temporary quarters, Commander Wright stood at the small viewport, watching the enormous golden ship dock with the station. His instincts told him they were approaching a critical moment. Whether it led to understanding or disaster remained to be seen, but one thing was certain. Humanity's accidental entry into the galactic hegemony had created ripples that were quickly becoming waves. The Imperial envoy arrived with a ceremony that seemed excessive even by the hegemony standards. The entire station shuddered as docking clamps secured the massive golden vessel. Guards lined every corridor in perfect formation, standing so, still they might have been statues. Commander Wright and his crew were brought together for the first time in weeks. They gathered in a large chamber that had been hastily redecorated with strange symbols and flowing banners. "Stay calm, no matter what happens," Wright whispered to his people. "We're representatives of Earth now." Dr. Martinez stood beside him, her face thin from weeks of intense questioning. "They're terrified of whoever is on that ship," she whispered. "Look at them." She was right. Even Overseer Kelvik, normally so confident and imposing, stood rigidly at attention, a sheen of sweat visible on his gray skin. A series of chimes echoed through the chamber, and the main doors slid open. First came guards, unlike any the humans had seen before, tall figures in armor that seemed to shift colors with each movement. Then came a procession of robed officials carrying elaborate staffs. Finally she appeared. Lady Zoris, Imperial Envoy of the Eternal Emperor, glided into the room. She was tall and willowy, with skin the color of polished silver and eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. Her robes flowed around her as if they were liquid rather than fabric. Every hegemony official dropped to one knee immediately. Kelvik glanced at the humans, clearly expecting them to do the same. Wright kept his crew standing. Lady Zoris noticed this immediately. Her eyes, swirling pools of purple and blue, fixed on Wright. When she spoke, her voice bypassed their ears entirely, appearing directly in their minds with a clarity that was almost painful. So these are the anomalies, she said, moving closer to examine the humans. Fascinating. They show no proper deference. They are ignorant of protocol, Your Eminence, Kelvik said quickly. We have not yet properly educated them on, Lady. Zeres silenced him with a small gesture. Their ignorance is refreshing, Overseer. Too many beings kneel out of fear rather than respect. She circled around the humans, studying them. I sense no fear from them. How unusual. She stopped in front of Dr. Martinez. This one created the breach technology? Yes, Your Eminence, Kelvik confirmed. Lady Zeres extended a long, delicate finger and touched Martinez's forehead. Martinez gasped as images flashed through her mind, equations, star maps, and strange symbols she somehow understood. Remarkable, Lady Zeres said, withdrawing her hand. Your mind works along prohibited paths, yet you arrive there naturally. The Emperor will be most interested. What does that mean? Wright asked directly, ignoring Kelvik's look of horror at his boldness. Lady, Zeres turned to him, something like amusement flickering across her alien features. It means, Commander Wright, that your species presents a puzzle, one the Emperor himself wishes to examine. Over the next few days, the humans were subjected to new tests, far more sophisticated than those conducted by the regular hegemony scientists. Lady Zeres personally oversaw many of these examinations, particularly those involving decision-making and creativity. During one such test, Martinez and Wright were placed in a simulation chamber. They found themselves in what appeared to be a perfect recreation of a small Earth park. This is incredible, Martinez said, touching a leaf that felt completely real. Their holographic technology must be decades beyond ours. I don't think. These are holograms, Wright replied, bending to pick up a stone. Everything has mass and proper physics. A voice, Lady Zeres's, filled the space around them. This is not a simulation in the way you understand it. This is a memory extraction, made physical through imperial technology. Before they could ask what that meant, the scenario changed. They were now standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a ship, but unlike any vessel humans had designed, displays showed information in alien script that strangely they could understand. Your task is simple, Lady Zeres's voice continued. This vessel is under attack. You have 3 minutes to decide how to save it. The standard imperial solution exists, but I am curious if you will find it. Wright and Martinez exchanged glances before hurrying to examine the ship's systems. As they worked to understand the unfamiliar technology, Wright noticed something odd. The attacker isn't actually targeting vital systems, he said. They're herding the ship toward that nebula. Martinez studied the readings. You're right. And look at these energy signatures. The nebula contains some kind of natural dampening field. If we enter it, we lose shields and weapons, Wright finished. So the standard approach would be to fight back directly. Martinez shook her head. Too many attackers, we'd be overwhelmed. Wright thought for a moment, then smiled. What if we go where they want us to go, but faster than they expect? We could use the nebula to mask a power surge in the drive system, then burst out behind them. Risky, Martinez said, but it might work. She quickly adjusted the simulated controls. The scenario played out, with their unorthodox solution resulting in a successful escape. The simulation faded, and they found themselves back in the testing chamber with Lady Zeres watching them intently. Fascinating, she said. You ignored the programmed solution and created your own path. This confirms the initial findings. What findings? Wright asked. That humans possess unusual creative problem-solving abilities. You see paths that our algorithms do not predict. Meanwhile, on another part of the station, engineer Maya Rodriguez was speaking with her alien friend Ziv in hushed tones. Something big is happening, Ziv whispered. The arrival of Lady Zeres has changed everything. There are rumors that a second Earthship has appeared at the edge of hegemony space. Another Earthship? That's impossible, Maya said. No one knew where we were going. It was just a test flight. Ziv's large eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of anxiety Rodriguez had come to recognize. The message I helped you send might have reached your people. But that's not all. Lady Zoris has requested your ship be repaired. They're fixing the Dauntless? Why? For examination by the Emperor himself. We are preparing for transport to the Imperial Core Worlds. The news spread quickly among the human crew. That evening, when they were permitted to gather in a common area under heavy guard, security specialist Jones shared what she had learned. They're taking us to someplace called the Throne World, she said quietly. It's apparently the center of their empire, a place most species never get to see. Is that good or bad for us? Lieutenant Pearson asked. I'm not sure, Jones replied, but I overheard something else. The guards were talking about another human vessel that's appeared in hegemony space. They called it the Second Intruder, Doctor. Martinez looked up sharply. That's impossible unless... She lowered her voice. Unless Maya's message got through somehow. Commander Wright considered this information carefully. If Earth sent a rescue mission, we need to be ready. But we also need to understand what the hegemony, what this Emperor wants from us. The next day, they received their answer. Lady Zores summoned them to her private chambers aboard the Imperial vessel. The room was vast, with walls that seemed to show actual views of distant stars and planets. Your presence has created quite a stir in the Imperial court, she told them. In 3 days, we depart for the Throne World. The Emperor has commanded your presence. Why? Wright asked directly. What does your Emperor want with us? Lady Zores studied him for a moment. The Emperor has ruled for over 10,000 years, Commander. In that time, he has seen civilizations rise and fall. Yet, never has he encountered beings who developed as your kind has, outside the pattern. And that's important because, Martinez prompted. For the first time, Lady Zores showed what might have been hesitation. The Emperor believes your species may hold a key he has sought for millennia. Your neural pathways, your creative thinking, your resistance to our standard control measures, these things interest him greatly. Control measures? Wright asked sharply. Lady Zores made a dismissive gesture. All civilized species require guidance. The Emperor provides this through various means. As they were escorted back to their quarters, Dr. Martinez whispered to... Right, did you notice? She never actually said what the Emperor wants us for, but I think I'm starting to understand. What do you mean? The tests, the interest in our brains, the talk about prohibited paths of development. I think humans might be something this empire has never seen before. And what's that? Wright asked. Martinez's eyes were troubled as she replied, truly free minds. The Imperial vessel, Destiny's Hand, moved through space at speeds the human crew could barely comprehend. Stars streaked past the viewing portals like lines of light. Commander Wright stood at one such portal, watching the unfamiliar galaxies rush by. It had been 2 days since they left the station, heading toward what the hegemony called the Throne World. Amazing, isn't it? Dr. Martinez said, joining him at the viewport. According to my calculations, we're moving at least 1,000 times faster than our best ships. Wright nodded. A sobering reminder of how outmatched we are technologically. And yet they seem fascinated by us, Martinez replied. Lady Zores has spent hours questioning me about Earth's development. She seems particularly interested in our history of conflict and competition. I've noticed the same, Wright said. It's almost as if they've never encountered a species that developed without outside control. Their conversation was interrupted when the door slid open. A tall, robed figure entered. Not Lady Zores, but one of her attendants. The envoy requests your presence in the knowledge chamber, the attendant said, the words forming directly, in their minds as always. You will be joined by the one you call Professor Blake. William Blake was a specialist in ancient history who had been largely ignored by the hegemony until Lady Zores arrived. The elderly professor had been brought aboard the Imperial vessel and subjected to intensive questioning about Earth's earliest civilizations. When Wright and Martinez arrived at the knowledge chamber, they found Professor Blake already there, examining strange symbols projected in the air around him. Lady Zores stood nearby, her silvery skin seeming to glow in the dim light. "Ah, good," she said, noticing their arrival. "Professor Blake has made a most interesting discovery." The professor looked up, his eyes wide with excitement. "Commander Dr. Martinez, this is extraordinary. These symbols the lady has shown me, they bear remarkable similarities to some of our most ancient writing systems. Sumerian, Proto-Elamite, early Indus Valley scripts." "What does that mean?" Wright asked. Lady Zoris moved her hand, and the floating symbols rearranged themselves. "It suggests a connection that the Emperor has long suspected. Your world may not be as isolated as you believe." Before she could elaborate, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. Lady Zoris tilted her head, as if listening to a message only she could hear. "It seems your friends have arrived," she said, a hint of amusement in her mental voice. "A fleet of Earth vessels has penetrated deeper into hegemony space." Wright tried to hide his surprise. "Earth doesn't have a fleet capable of—" "Do not insult my intelligence with denials, Commander," Lady Zoris interrupted. "We have detected 5 vessels of Earth design, led by a ship identifying itself as the UES Defender, under the command of Admiral Karen Foster." Martinez gasped softly. "Karen is here? How is that possible?" Lady Zoris made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared, showing 5 Earth ships engaged with a much larger force of hegemony vessels. Despite being outnumbered, the Earth ships were executing complex maneuvers that seemed to confuse the hegemony forces. "Your Admiral Foster employs unusual tactics," Lady Zoris observed. "Our battle algorithms cannot predict her movements." Wright watched with a mixture of pride and concern. Karen always was unpredictable. That's what makes her a good commander. "It makes her dangerous," Lady Zoris corrected. "But not as dangerous as you might hope. The hegemony fleet will adjust. Your people face certain defeat." As they watched, however, the Earth vessels performed a series of coordinated jumps that scattered the hegemony forces. Several of the alien ships collided in their attempt to follow. "Impossible," one of Lady Zoris's attendants murmured. "They are using short-range jump technology in a combat situation." Lady Zoris's expression remained unchanged, but Wright sensed her surprise. "Tell me, Commander, does Earth regularly employ such risky tactics in warfare?" "We do what we need to do to protect our own," Wright replied carefully. The envoy studied him for a moment, an admirable quality if somewhat primitive. She waved her hand and the display vanished. "Regardless, this distraction changes nothing. We will arrive at the throne world in 3 days. The Emperor awaits." After they were dismissed, Martinez pulled Wright aside in the corridor. "They're hiding something important from us," she whispered. "I know," Wright agreed. "But what?" "I think I've figured part of it out," she said, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. "The warp drive malfunction wasn't an accident, Alan. When I've been working with their scientists, I've noticed something. The spatial rift we created matched exactly with ancient technology they have records of, technology they call the precursor network." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying something out there was waiting for us. The drive activated dormant technology that was placed near Earth deliberately, thousands of years ago." Wright absorbed this information slowly. "By whom?" "I don't know for certain, but I have a theory that's going to sound crazy," Martinez said. "What if humans aren't native to Earth? What if we were placed there, long ago?" Meanwhile, in another section of the massive vessel, Dr. Patricia Wells was making discoveries of her own. As a physicist specializing in quantum mechanics, she had been granted limited access to the ship's scientific databases to help explain human scientific development. What she found left her stunned. The hegemony's understanding of physics far surpassed Earth's, yet there were gaps, bizarre blind spots in areas where humans had made significant progress. Lieutenant Ryan Mitchell, an infiltration specialist who had been part of the original Dauntless crew, had managed to exploit these scientific exchange sessions. While the hegemony scientists were focused on Dr. Wells, Mitchell had planted tiny devices that gave him limited access to their communication systems. That night, As the other humans slept, Mitchell carefully activated one such device. The information that scrolled across his small portable screen made his blood run cold. The Lost Experiment, one file was labeled. It contained references to genetically modified subjects who had escaped Imperial control 200,000 years ago. The file was heavily encrypted, but one phrase was clear: genetic memory capabilities must be recovered. The next morning, Mitchell shared his discovery with Wright and the others during a rare moment when they were all together and relatively unmonitored. "They're calling us the Lost Experiment," he explained quietly. "From what I could gather, the Emperor was conducting some kind of genetic engineering project thousands of years ago. A group of subjects escaped, and they think that was us? Humans?" Dr. Wells asked skeptically. "Not exactly us," Mitchell clarified, "but possibly our ancestors. There's something about genetic memory capabilities that seems particularly important to them." Professor Blake nodded slowly. "That would explain the similarities in ancient writing systems and certain myths that appear across completely isolated human cultures. Myths about powerful beings from the stars who created or modified humans." Before they could discuss further, Lady Zoris appeared at their table, her timing so perfect that Wright suspected they had been monitored after all. "We are approaching the Imperial core systems," she announced. "The Emperor has requested that I prepare you for your audience." "Prepare us how?" Wright asked cautiously. Lady Zoris regarded him with her swirling galaxy eyes. "By telling you the truth, Commander. The truth about your origins, about the Emperor, and about why your return was both feared and anticipated." She gestured for them to follow her to a private chamber. Once inside, she sealed the door and disabled all monitoring devices with a wave of her hand. "What I am about to tell you is known to only a few beings in the entire hegemony," she began. "The Emperor is not what most believe him to be. He was once human, or from a precursor species to humans." The humans exchanged shocked glances. "How is that possible?" Martinez asked. "You said he's ruled for 10,000 years. The Emperor has discovered the secret of transferring his consciousness to new bodies when the old ones fail," Lady Zoris explained. "But over millennia, the process has become problematic. Each transfer loses something vital. The Emperor requires compatible hosts to maintain his existence." A cold realization dawned on Wright. "And humans are compatible." Lady Zoris nodded slowly. "The most compatible hosts ever discovered. You were not brought here as guests, Commander. You were brought as research subjects for the Emperor's consciousness transfer experiments." The throne world appeared through the viewing portal like something from a dream. It wasn't a planet at all, but an enormous artificial structure surrounding a carefully controlled star. Rings of gleaming metal orbited the construct, each supporting countless buildings, parks, and spaceports. The entire structure shimmered with a golden light that seemed almost alive. "It's beautiful," Dr. Martinez whispered, standing beside Commander Wright as they approached. "Beautiful but unnatural," Wright replied quietly. "Like everything in the hegemony." The Imperial vessel docked at a massive port near what Lady Zoris called the Inner Sanctum, the heart of the Emperor's domain. As the humans prepared to disembark, Wright gathered his crew for a final word. "We don't know exactly what awaits us," he said in a low voice, "but we now understand why we're here. Whatever happens, remember who you are and where you come from. Earth is counting on us." They were led through a series of grand hallways and chambers, each more elaborate than the last. Aliens of various species lined the corridors, bowing deeply as Lady Zoris passed. Many stared at the humans with obvious curiosity or fear. Finally, they reached an enormous circular chamber with a domed ceiling that seemed to show the entire galaxy in motion. At the center stood a raised platform with what appeared to be a throne, though no one sat upon it. Lady Zoris motioned for them to stop. "The Emperor will join us momentarily," she announced. "When he arrives, you will kneel." "We don't kneel to anyone," Wright said firmly. The envoy's eyes flashed. "You will show proper respect or what?" Dr. Martinez interrupted. "You'll kill us? Then who will serve as your Emperor's new bodies?" Before Lady Zoris could respond, The air in the chamber began to shimmer. A soft hum filled the room, growing louder as a point of light appeared above the throne. The light expanded, swirling with colors that hurt the eyes until it formed into a humanoid shape. The Emperor did not look as they had expected. Rather than an imposing figure, he appeared as a being of pure energy, only vaguely human in outline. When he spoke, his voice resonated directly in their minds, but unlike the communication of other hegemony officials, this felt invasive, like fingers probing their thoughts. "At last," the Emperor said, the mental voice carrying notes of satisfaction. "My children have returned home." "We are not your children," Wright stated boldly. The Emperor's form flickered slightly. "But you are, in every way that matters. Your species exists because of me. Your genetic code, your neural pathways, your capacity for independent thought, all my design." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "You created humans?" "I created the template from which you evolved," the Emperor clarified. 200,000 years ago, I developed the perfect host species, beings with neural networks designed for complete consciousness transfer. But there was an incident. The subjects escaped before the final modifications could be implemented. "They fled to Earth," Professor Blake said, understanding dawning on his face. "A remote world far from Imperial space," the Emperor confirmed. "I could have retrieved them, but I saw an opportunity for a great experiment. Would they evolve along the proper path? Would natural selection enhance or diminish the traits I had engineered? So I watched and waited, placing monitoring technology near your solar system. The technology that interacted with our warp drive," Martinez said. "Precisely. When your ship activated the ancient beacon, I knew the experiment had reached fruition. Humans have developed exactly as I hoped. Independent, creative thinkers with unique neural patterns perfect for consciousness transfer." Wright felt a chill run down his spine. "And now you want to take over our bodies." The Emperor's form expanded slightly. "Such a primitive understanding. I don't wish to take over anything. I wish to merge, to share my consciousness with compatible hosts, to continue my existence while guiding the hegemony, as I have for 10 millennia. You mean to possess us," Wright said flatly, "to use us like tools. I offer immortality, Commander. Knowledge beyond your comprehension." While they conversed, Engineer Rodriguez had been scanning the chamber with a small device Dr. Wells had modified. She caught Wright's eye and gave a subtle nod. The signal had been sent. "And if we refuse?" Wright asked, trying to keep the Emperor's attention. The energy being pulsed with what might have been amusement. "You misunderstand your position. This is not an offer. It is your destiny, the very purpose for which your species was created." Suddenly alarms blared throughout the chamber. Lady Zoras received a message that made her silvery skin pale. "Impossible," she whispered. "Earth vessels have penetrated the throne world's outer defenses." The Emperor's form flickered. "How?" Outside, Admiral Karen Foster's fleet had indeed arrived, employing tactics that baffled the hegemony defense systems. But they weren't alone. Ships of various designs fought alongside them, vessels belonging to species from across the hegemony. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Foster stood beside an alien with rust-colored skin and 4 arms, rebel leader Thraz, representative of a resistance movement that had fought the Emperor in secret for centuries. "Your distraction worked perfectly," Thraz said. "My people have infiltrated the lower levels of the sanctum. They will locate your humans soon." "Let's hope they're still alive to be found," Foster replied grimly. Back in the throne room, the Emperor had begun the absorption process. Dr. Martinez had been brought forward first, held in place by an energy field as the Emperor's form moved toward her. "Your mind holds the key," the Emperor said. "The one who created the bridge technology. Your neural pathways will make the perfect initial connection." Martinez struggled against the invisible bonds. "You'll find I'm not so easy to control," she said through gritted teeth. The Emperor's energy form touched her forehead and she screamed. But instead of submitting, her mind fought back with unexpected strength. The Emperor's form wavered, seeming surprised by the resistance. Wright turned to engineer Kevin Blackwell, who had been secretly modifying a small device. "Now," he whispered. Blackwell activated the device, a modified version of hegemony technology he had studied during their journey. It emitted a pulse that disrupted the energy field holding Martinez. At that moment, the chamber doors burst open. General Laura Davidson led a team of Earth's special forces, accompanied by aliens of various species wearing the same insignia, Thraz's Rebellion. "Right," Davidson called out. "Time to go." Chaos erupted in the throne room. The Emperor's guards engaged with the rebels while Lady Zoris attempted to restore order. In the confusion, Wright reached Martinez, who had collapsed when the energy field failed. "Olivia, are you all right?" he asked urgently. She looked up, her eyes unfocused. "I saw everything. His mind. The truth." "What truth?" "He's been lying to everyone," she gasped. "The hegemony, the pattern laws, all of it. It's just control. He fears change, fears anything he can't predict. And he's afraid of us, Alan. Terrified of what humans represent." The Emperor's form had retreated to the throne, growing larger and more unstable. "You cannot escape," his voice boomed in their minds. "This has been my domain for 10,000 years. Wright helped Martinez to her feet. "We're leaving, and we're taking the truth with us. The truth about what you really are." The Emperor's form pulsed violently. "You understand nothing." "I understand enough," Martinez said, standing straighter now. "Your consciousness network, I saw how it works, how it connects to every being in the hegemony through those control technologies, and I know how to disrupt it." She nodded to Blackwell, who adjusted his device and activated it at full power. The pulse that emanated from it was invisible but powerful. The Emperor's energy form convulsed, and throughout the chamber, the aliens suddenly clutched their heads as if hearing something new for the first time. "What have you done?" Lady Zoris demanded, her own form seeming to flicker. "Broken the control network, temporarily at least," Martinez explained. "For the first time in generations, the people of the hegemony can hear their own thoughts without the Emperor's influence." The Emperor's form shrank, becoming more unstable. "This changes nothing. I will restore the network. I will reclaim control." "Maybe," Wright agreed, "but not today." As they retreated toward the doors where General Davidson waited, Wright looked back at the diminished Emperor. "You made one mistake when you created humans," he called out. "You gave us the ability to choose our own path. And we choose freedom." The humans and their rebel allies fought their way back to the docking bays where Earth vessels waited. Across the throne world, confusion reigned as countless beings experienced true free thought for the first time in their lives. 3 days later, aboard the UES Defender, Commander Wright stood on the bridge beside Admiral Foster, watching as a mixed fleet of Earth and rebel ships moved through space together. "What happens now?" Foster asked. "The Emperor survived, but his power is weakened," Wright explained. "The disruption to his network revealed the truth to millions of beings across the hegemony. Thraz says rebellions have broken out on hundreds of worlds." "And Earth?" "We've gained powerful allies and dangerous enemies," Wright said. "But we're not alone in the galaxy anymore." Martinez joined them, looking tired but determined. "The Emperor will try again. He still believes humans are his creation, his property." "Let him try," Wright said firmly. "We'll be ready." As the fleet prepared to jump to safer space, Wright thought about the strange journey that had brought them here. What had begun as an accident, a simple test flight gone wrong, had changed the course of history for countless civilizations. By mistake, humanity had entered the Empire. But it was no mistake that they had challenged its throne. Perhaps, in some ways, it had been inevitable. The moment a species that truly valued freedom encountered one that only understood control. The stars beckoned as the ships engaged their drives, leaving the Emperor's domain behind, at least for now.